In this video, we're going to be dividing decimals by powers of 10. So we know that when we were multiplying decimals by powers of 10, for example, with 4 and 22 hundredths, times 10 to the second power, when you multiply times 10 to the second power, you're really multiplying times 100, because we know that 2 means two zeros when it's 10 to the second power. And when you multiply by 100, we know we're going to get bigger. So we're going to take that decimal, we're going to put our pencil on our decimal, we're going to swoop 1, 2 to the right. We know that 4 and 22 hundredths times 100 would equal 422. But now, what about divided by? If with multiply you go to the right, divided by you're going to go to the left to make it smaller. So let's go ahead and write 4 and 22 hundredths in our box. Now we know we've got divided by 10 to the second power. So we're going to put our pencil on that decimal, and we're going to move to the left 2 swoops. 1, 2 swoops, redraw that decimal point. And you know we have to fill in our swoop blanks with a 0. So I want you to notice, we do not have 2 zeros here because it's 10 to the second power. We have 2 zeros here because once we swoop twice, we need a 0 in front of the decimal, just because it makes it easier to see that decimal, and then a 0 in our swoop blank. So our answer is the 0.0422. We're not going to say these correctly because we haven't learned decimal points this big, but it's going to be a good thing to go ahead and practice dividing by those powers of 10. For the next one, we've got 458 divided by 10 to the third power. So remember, if you have a whole number, the decimal's just at the end. Because if I were to say 458 and $0, or $458.00, you would just put your decimal and then your 00 after it. So your decimal point always goes at the end of a whole number with no decimal point. Now let's divide by 10 to the third power. We're going to put our pencil on that decimal point. And remember, since we're dividing by 10 to the third power, we want to get smaller by 1,000. So 1,000 times smaller. So we're going to put our pencil on that decimal point, and we're going to swoop 3 times. 1, 2, 3 times. Rewrite that decimal point. Put the 0 in the front. And I'm going to go ahead and erase my swoop so you can really see that answer that I want you to see there. Our answer is going to be 458 thousandths because we swooped 3 times. I'm going to do one more for you, and then I'm going to have you jump in and go ahead, start working on them on your own. All right, for this next one, go ahead and write in your 2/10. Now we've got 2/10 divided by 10 to the fifth power. So we know that we want to get, oh goodness, what number is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100,000 times smaller. This is going to be a lot of swoops. So we're going to put our pencil on the decimal point. And then we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swoops. Let's put our zeros in. I have 1 swoop here for a 0. 1 here for a 0, 1 here for a 0, 1 here for a 0. And I'm going to put a 0 in front of my decimal point because I like to always do that. So we have 0 decimal, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 2. Now there does happen to be 5 zeros there, but that's not because it was 10 to the fifth power. That's just how many swoops we had, and we had to add those zeros. All right, let's jump into the next one. For this next one, I want you to try it on your own. We've got 4 and 1/10 divided by 10 to the power of 1. Go ahead and try this one on your own. For this one, you should have written your 4 and 1/10. Now we know we're dividing by 10 to the power of 1, so we're going to get 10 times smaller. Now to get 10 times smaller, we're going to put our pencil on that decimal point, and we're going to swoop 1 to the left, put it back. There's our 0. So your answer is 41 hundredths. 41 hundredths. Looks good, looks good. If you did not get that, make sure you're going back and understanding why. All right, your next one is going to be 154 divided by 10 to the fourth. Remember where that decimal point goes in a whole number. Look at it and pretend it's $154.00. Where would you put that decimal point? For this one, you should have written your 154. Remember that decimal point goes at the end of a whole number. And we're going to divide 4, 10 to the fourth power, which means we're going to swoop it left 4 times. So put your pencil on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks good. I'm going to add my 0 and my 0. And my answer is 0.0154. Looks good, looks good. Let's go ahead and jump into the next one. For this next one, you've got 482 and 26 hundredths divided by 10 to the second power. Go ahead and work it out. You should have written 482 and 26 hundredths divided by 10 to the second power. So we're going to put our pencil on that decimal point. We're going to move it 2 times to the left. 1, 2. Looks good, looks good. Your answer should be 4.8226. Looks perfect. We didn't even have to add any zeros to that one. For this next one, you've got 6 and 72 hundredths divided by 1,000. So got a little bit tricky there. You know that 1,000 is simply 10 to the power of 3 because there are 3 zeros. So go ahead and try it out. You should have done 6 and 72 hundredths divided by 10 to the third power means we put our pencil on the decimal point and we move to the left 3 times because there's 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. We're going to add in some zeros there. Now we have 0.00672. Let's good, let's good. Let's try this next one. Then I'm going to help you work out the next one on your own. So go ahead and try 120 divided by 10 to the fifth power. For this one, you should have written 120, put your decimal at the end. Divided by means we go left, 10 to the fifth power means we go 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks good. Let's add our zeros. For this one, you should have 0.00120. Now, you know you could get rid of that 0 at the end. You don't have to, but you can because zeros at the end of a decimal point really don't matter. Now, this next one looks different. It looks tricky, but it's the same thing. So, 65 times 1/10. If we were to work this out, 65 times 1/10. You know you get 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 swoop, 1 swoop. So what you did there, if you notice, is you have 65. You put the decimal at the end. You swoop it in 1 time because it's 1/10. These get a little bit trickier because we're basically just moving to the left just like we did before. And I did show you how we work that out. This one's going to be a challenge. You're not going to see very many of them, but I want you to see them and try them to make sure we understand and kind of are familiar with it. So go ahead and try this last one. I know it's a challenge, but go ahead and try it. All right, for this one, I think I want to work it out both ways. I want to show you the swooping way and I want to show you the non-swooping way. So for this one, you should have written 32 and 14 hundredths. And then we're going to swoop it 1, 2, 3 times. So I counted that by going 1, 2, 3 times. So we're going to go 1, 2, whoop, 3. That's where my 0 is going to be. So now we have 0 and 0, 0 and 0, 3, 2, 1, 4. But let's go ahead and work that out the more traditional way so we totally understand why we got that answer. So this is a 1, 0, 0, decimal 0. All right. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. Let's count our swoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got the exact same answer. So for these, I would suggest you work it out more traditionally because it can be really difficult to kind of understand why we're moving 5 times. But you should have gotten that as your final answer. Go ahead and get that classwork started. Make sure you ask any questions if you have them.